This week on Source Code, we'll take a look at the sorry state of the healthcare industry in this country and find out who's going to change it. We'll feature a personal documentary from one of our viewers on what daily life looks like to a young woman faced with a life-threatening disease and unable to afford proper health care. We'll also talk to Dr. Sheldon Krimsky to find out what's driving prescription drug prices and the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry. But first, we'll look at women's reproductive health care in this week's installment of The Download. In the spring of 2004, a march of historic proportion took place in our nation's capital. Over 1 million people, mostly women and girls, took to the streets of Washington, D.C. in the largest demonstration in U.S. history to let this anti-democratic administration know loud and clear that their policies limiting a woman's access to reproductive health care was endangering the safety and well-being of not only its citizens, but the lives of millions of women around the world. The March for Women's Lives began in 1989, when over 500,000 people called for the reinforcement of the fundamental right of a woman to control her fertility. 15 years later, reproductive freedom is again under assault by a right-wing fundamentalist ideology that believes women's health care choices should be restricted and limited by government representatives that place personal religious opinion above public health and safety.
What does it mean to be equal under the law? At a minimum, it means that in America, no citizen is afforded fewer rights. Is reproductive choice a matter of liberty and justice for women? Because, at a minimum, we must not allow others to take away our freedom by dictating our reproductive choices, and we will not let others make us second-class citizens. Doomed.
I'm a first-year medical student, and basically, although abortion is the most common surgical procedure that women in the United States undergo, we do not get medical education on it as medical students. This is a medical issue, not a political issue, and it should be up to a woman to decide her own health and well-being for her own body. We're here with Medical Students for Choice, and there's over 400 of us from across the country, and we have at GW a very strong chapter who's helped organize all the people from across the country to come to this march. And we are working for curriculum reform, we are working with our professors, we are working to make change to get this into our curriculum.
This administration has really tried to take away our right to be able to choose.
And make it very hard for us.
And made it very hard for us to make those decisions. And I don't think that administration should have that right to do that.
88% of the counties in this country do not have an abortion provider now. This is modern health care, but this is sex education and Christian morality from another century altogether.
Abortion and basically all comprehensive reproductive health care services are really undertaught in medical school. In all the medical schools in the country, 84% of them have mandated education on Viagra, while only 14% of them have mandated education on abortion.
Abortion is one of the ways that womankind, human beings, historically have used to limit our fertility, along with various kinds of birth control. It's existed for at least 5,000 years.
This administration is not just turning the clock back in every way it can on so many issues that are important to women, obviously choice, but so much else. And that's why we need to try to communicate as clearly as possible to all women and men who are fair-minded in America that a vote for a pro-choice candidate is a vote for conscience, it's a vote for the choice that a woman and her family can make. And it's also a vote for someone who will protect economic rights and health care and so much else.
We are again fighting upstream to make sure that women have not only the right to choice, but just family planning. It's always attacked by the right-wing conservatives. We have to make sure that we get all of the people who believe as we believe to vote, to get them out of office so that we can control being able to expand opportunities to women everywhere.
Well, I think people who, what we really need is to stand up and say what we believe. And if you do that, give people a reason to vote, they'll do it. Democracy is stronger when women have equal rights with men, and that means they got to have the same medical rights as men too. If you want a real change, if you're really upset by what George Bush is doing, then vote for John Kerry for president, because he can make that difference.
Well, of course, we're fighting against this, and that's why we're out here marching today, so we can have regime change in our country. That means getting rid of the Bush administration in November. So hopefully all of these women and men who are out here today are registered to vote and will vote Democratic in November, vote for John Kerry, and get rid of this anti-choice, anti-woman, anti-family president.
One of the first acts of the Bush administration was to reenact a law that effectively denies reproductive services to millions of women in the developing world. The gag rule prohibits U.S. funding to any organization that provides abortion service or abortion counseling as part of their larger commitment to reproductive health. Women in Africa do what women in this country did years ago when they had no legal abortion. They turn to black market abortion. It is estimated that 5 million African women seek unsafe back alley abortions. More than 34,000 of them die.
There's a very important moment we're living in where resistance to this is really critical, because Bush and company have shown that they're willing to make moves outside of normal government procedure. It's really not about the fetus. It's about the life of the woman who already exists. And I think if people can look realistically and actually objectively about how women live in the world, they'll be able to see that that's really the question, how women can function in the world vis-a-vis their reproductive choices. And it's not about the fetus. There's a fetish about fetuses that have been developed only as a way to reinforce patriarchal control back on women.
The first thing that he did was instate the global gag rule and take away funding from family planning agencies. This is about women's health, this is about women's lives, and women are dying because of this.